If you're a Cleveland Browns fan looking for a break from the emotional roller coaster that is the price we pay from loving then hating our Browns, then a big welcome to Cleveland Browns Anonymous, a group therapy podcast to help you survive the season. So let's start our meeting.
Hi, everybody. This is Mike Riley with my partner on the bench for the Cleveland Browns football team, Brook Reilly. Brook, we're here in Graysville. It's cloudy. It's gray. Once again, we're not in the Super Bowl. Once again, we're looking at what used to be our Super Bowl for years, the upcoming NFL draft. So how you holding up here?
Good, yeah. Looking at a lot of mocks.
What's your latest mock drafts? Brings back old memories, right? With Hugh Jackson and Sashi and...
Yeah, it's, a lot of talk on, like, what the Raiders are going to do. I know the Raiders are super high on Shador Sanders. There's a lot of talk that privately, I know Shador's dad, Dion...
Prime time,
has made it pretty clear that he's going to talk to certain teams that, hey, if you draft us, we're not going to come, which is
come on, prime time.
But right now it's like, my feeling is, I think if the quarterback from Miami, Cam Ward, is available, they take him, just from what I'm reading. Apparently, like, the leadership of this guy is, like, off the charts.
Well, Baker was like that. Baker was a leader.
But, I think if Cam Ward is there at 2, I would take him. I would be excited about that. If not, I think this Abdul Carter looks like just a beast. So I kind of go back and forth with, like, hey, sign Kirk Cousins to the minimum, bring in Joe Flacco, and then just draft, like, a blue chip best player.
Well, do you remember where Bo Nix was on the draft talk last year? I mean, the Broncos took him. Sean Payton took him. And he got Bo Nix and the Broncos after just a shit year with let Russ cook. They're in the playoffs. I mean, I don't recall hearing a whole lot about Bo Nix or Purdy or...
Well, that's the thing. Like, a lot of it's like, I don't trust anyone who creates a mock draft. Like, no one knows. Not even these GMs. Like, it's such a crapshoot. I do remember hearing about Bo Nix is like, a lot of people were like, yeah, he's a project guy, and now, he's with the perfect coach for him.
Right, Sean Payton. Yeah.
And they went to the playoffs, and, he looks like a above average quarterback. Yeah.
Well, look, I think the Browns this year, you get, what's that guy's name from Penn State, the defensive end?
Abdul Carter.
You get him, Miles is immediately happy. No more double, triple teaming Miles. And then you got some young guys on the line who are coming on strong in the second half of the season. Now you've got a real first-class defensive line. Pick a linebacker, get an offensive tackle. You know what? You just get best player available. Right now, best player available after quarterback is Abdul Carter, hands down.
Well, not even that. I mean, I think the only thing that sounds true to me is they compared, because last year's quarterback class is probably going to go down as like a historical,
like Marino Elway.
You got Jaden Daniels, you got Drake May with the Patriots, you got Caleb, Bo Nix. So what I like to hear is, like, where would this quarterback class, like, there's really like 2 or 3 guys, right? There's Shador, there's Cam Ward, and they're saying this guy Jackson Dart is like the 3rd guy. And they said, where would these 3 guys rank if they all came out like last year with this whole class? And, like, hands down, everyone has said, like, those 3 guys, at least Shador and Cam, would be like 6, 7, 8. So that just kind of tells you that, like, is this quarterback class that great? Probably not. But in every draft, there's always like a quarterback who comes out who's.
Yeah, but okay. And I agree with you, Brooke. But here's what I've been saying for years. And it's just gotten more and more ringing in my head. Where is the coaching? You got Sean Payton, who takes Bo Nix, developmental. Guy's a stud, right? You take Baker, who was just off the chart team leader. Teams followed him. He rallied the team. You know, he was a type A guy. He goes with the Browns, and he just hits a wall. Number one pick in the draft, and he hits a wall. The same organization take Deshaun Watson, who, by the way, in college had off-the-chart leadership skills, led them to a national championship. And what does that coaching staff do with Deshaun? He makes them ruin the team. The whole season ruined by the way they handled Deshaun Watson. So they handled Baker, didn't develop him, and he was number one in the first round. Deshaun Watson, they let him, you kind of wonder, what would Sean Payton do? Which leads me to my Vinny Testaverde theory. Here's my Vinny Testaverde theory. He ends up with Bill Parcells on the Cowboys, supposedly washed up, right? Another guy to remember in the Vinny Testaverde class, Jim Plunkett, washed up, leads them to a Super Bowl win. Jim Plunkett beat the Browns in the famous red-right 88 game. You've got Testaverde with Parcells, and Parcells is the quarterback whisperer. And from the Parcells tree, you have Sean Payton, another quarterback whisperer. So to me, right now, it seems to be, if you want to match up coaching to quarterbacks and develop a quarterback, I got some real question marks as to whether Stefanski and his crew are cut out to do that. Which then begs the question, what has Stefanski done really well? He's taken Joe Flacco. He's taken Jacoby Brissett, right? He's taken a handful of quarterbacks that he basically makes them run his offense, his offensive schemes, along with the lamentably departed Alex Van Pelt. And we're in the playoffs. And so I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Bring Flacco back. And here's the other question. Vinny Testaverde. Let's get back to Vinny Testaverde. He comes to the Cowboys, and, you've heard this story, but our podcast listeners haven't. But he comes to the Cowboys, and I am 25 years ago, when Parcells was with the Cowboys, I had the privilege and the luck of playing with two NFL refs. Now, just to shows you how long ago this was. This was the Browns' first season coming back. So when was that? 2000?
99.
99? Okay. So it's 99, 2000, and Parcells has been with the Cowboys for 1 year, and he did what Sean Payton did with the Broncos. He immediately started turning them around. Okay? And he's not only getting mileage out of Vinny Testaverde, he is developing who as a quarterback?
Tony Romo.
Tony Romo. Ding, 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 ding. So he's getting everything out of Testaverde, and he's developing Tony Romo. Now, these NFL refs that I met that summer, they were working the training camp. At this time, I think they were out in Hiram or something before they moved to Berea. So they're out at Hiram College. I'm playing golf with them at a golf course out that way. I just bumped into them. They were at Tucson. I was playing with a friend of mine, and we just linked up because, hey, why both of us wait on the tee? Let's link up and we can play. These guys are great. And I was 15 holes of just pure joy playing with them, talking about the NFL, the inside story. And I said, who's the best coach in the NFL? And they said, hands down, Parcells. He says he took Vinny Testaverde, who had a penchant for throwing interceptions, trying to be the hero in crunch time. And he told them, you are going to run one of three plays in the red zone. You're going to run play A, plan B, and then when I put my hands up like a touchdown, you throw it in the bleachers if that play's not there. And Testaverde cut down his interceptions, Cowboys to the playoffs, and lo and behold, Tony Romo's getting developed. And that's the Parcells magic. So I'm asking, so here's the punchline, Brook, and then you can take over. Jameis Winston, can we get an offense geared to the Stefanski way with a Jameis Winston? Get an offensive tackle, beef up the line, run the Stefanski play action with a guy like Jameis Winston or Joe Flacco, and cut down the interceptions and just make it more run heavy with the threat of the deep ball, with a stout defense. 13 draft. How many draft picks do we have, Brook? 13? We got 2 number 3s. I know that.
It's on the higher side.
Yeah. And we just get best players available. What's your thoughts?
My thoughts are I want my Jaden Daniels. I want my Josh Allen.
You want your resume?
I want my young guy.
Okay.
I want my young guy. I don't care if he's number 2 overall. I don't care if he's a 3rd round pick. I don't care if he's like Jalen Hurts, who's a 2nd round pick. I want a young guy from college who Stefanski and Barry both feel like, you know what, he's either ready now or we're going to sign Joe Flacco for a year, have him learn. But I want something to look forward to. I don't want to be like the Seattle Seahawks where you're 9-8. You know, I want that young guy who's going to give some hope to this team. And so, yeah, it's like, hey, Andrew Barry and Stefanski know more about football than me and you. So I do, for some strange reason, I still have faith that they're going to make the right pick at number 2. Whether that's a trade, whether that's a quarterback, whether that's, Abdul Carter. I just think if we're getting down to specifics for this year, I think that if it were me, I don't want Jameis. I don't want any of the quarterbacks we have now. DTR, he's terrible. Jameis, he's funny for a couple games, but then he gets old.
Yeah, but we had a bad offense. We had Dorsey calling the plays. We had an O-line coach who was terrible. We were missing left tackles.
So you're telling me you would rather have Jameis Winston than, I don't know, Joe Flacco?
I'd take Joe Flacco under center.
Yeah.
I'd put, a guy like Winston, Kirk Cousins, somebody who's going to... Look, it's Stefanski's offense works well with a veteran quarterback. It doesn't work well with a rookie. I don't think he just knows how to deal with a rookie. I mean, look at Baker. Look at how he handles quarterbacks that are outside a certain box. He doesn't have that Parcells, Sean Payton-like discipline. I mean, Sean Payton just tore Russell Wilson apart. He made his life miserable, and he enjoyed making his life miserable. Can you imagine Deshaun Watson with Sean Payton or Bill Parcells? I mean, the guy would be on the bench. He'd be running laps, take those gold chains off. I mean, really, this guy would have been all over him. And that's not Stefanski. Stefanski needs a guy like a Jacoby Brissett, a Joe Flacco, a veteran guy.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be like that.
But that's what it is. That's what it is.
Then fire him.
I think, I don't think they're going to go that route. I think we get I'm with you, Brook. We get a developmental guy. We get a guy like Bo Nix, 2nd round. Who knows? Guy in Justin Fields. Somebody who's, look what Baker did with Tampa Bay. Everybody thought he was washed up, right? Sam Darnold with the Vikings. These guys they've hit rock bottom, right? And they got a second chance. We need a second chance guy, quarterback, working in an offense that he can thrive in, like like past. And then you got to think about, look at the Browns. They'll draft some guy at number 1. It's a crapshoot, like you said. Let's get Hall of Fame, blue chip, no doubt about it. They're going to be in the All-Pro for years to come people in this draft. This draft. That's my thing. Have a fun season with a shutdown D. That D was discouraged. There were pick sixes left and right. They couldn't run the ball. Watson was terrible. By the time Watson was out and Winston was in, the season was over. Everything fell apart. Let's get a competent quarterback. If we had a competent quarterback, if Deshaun Watson was a Geno Smith competent quarterback, that'd be one thing. He's no MVP. He's no, Jaden Daniels. And people would say, all right, well, okay, Watson, he's okay. So I think final thoughts.
That's just, it's really depressing.
That's why it's called Cleveland Browns Anonymous, Brook.
I hate this team.
You've got a Browns hat on.
Browns hat on.
And it's black.
It's like,
you're in mourning.
You know what would be the most Browns thing ever is Dion probably called Jimmy Haslam because they're comparing it to what Eli Manning did to the Chargers.
Right.
Where Eli's dad comes out publicly. Because the Chargers had the number 1 pick. And he said, my son is not going to play for the Chargers. So please, I'm letting everyone know now. Don't draft him.
Right.
Chargers call their bluff. And they draft him. And the famous photo of Eli holding the jersey up, and he looks disgusted. He looks like a spoiled kid. He's like, oh, fuck this team.
Yeah, and he looks like a spoiled guy even when he's winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, at least in Dion's, and let's be honest, the team, Dion said, hey, he literally said this out loud. He said, hey guys, FYI, there's a couple of teams in cities where if my son gets drafted there, he's not going to play there. It's hands down Cleveland.
I know.
Like, let's be honest. Like,
right.
If I'm your son, if I'm this highly sought,
you are my son.
Yeah. If I'm entering the draft, right, and the Browns have the number 2 pick, and let's say that I'm from San Francisco.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want me playing for Cleveland.
Yeah.
If it was between me and the Giants, you'd be like, oh yeah, no, I want him to play. So in Dion's case, he said out loud, he said, look, I'm not going to say publicly who these teams are.
Right.
But I'm going to talk to a couple owners and say, listen, I love my son, but if you draft him, he's not going to play.
Right.
So the most Browns thing would be Jimmy saying, I want Shador. Give him to me, baby. Dion's like, he texts Jimmy, be like, I'm going to go public, man. I told you this. And it's like, that's the most Browns thing.
You know what? Hey, everybody, we're going to be introducing in the next couple of weeks the new Browns board game. It'll be what would the Browns do? So you would have.
No, it needs to be like a bingo card.
Yeah, no, exactly. Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back. Getting your house ready to sell, or you just need some basic repairs, and you can't get anybody to come out or even return your phone call. Then call Riley Painting and Contracting, your home mechanics, for all of your home repair needs, from electrical, plumbing, roof repairs, and getting your house ready to sell. 45 years in the business, a AAA on the Better Business Bureau, and we're on the preferred contractor list in Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights. You can contact us by calling 216-371-8160 and leave a message. And guess what? We'll call you back. So Deshaun Watson says, I don't want to run this Stefanski run heavy. I want to run what I ran in college, shotgun, wide open, stuff like that. And then of course you have,
and that's already happened.
What would the Browns do? Browns would say, okay,
We'll fire
Other
the
teams,
OC,
yeah,
let Joe Flacco go.
yeah.
Hey, yeah.
And and Flacco becomes comeback player of the year. Throws 5 games, 300 yards plus. Was a fan favorite. What would the Browns do? Not sign Joe Flacco, right? I mean, hey, Andrew, you and Paul, if you're listening to this, Harvard should do a study, Harvard Business School study on how not to make correct decisions. And they can study it. And they can study the Browns. And that's unfortunately the Hugh Jackson, who was our OC, who became head coach for 1 year. Freddie. The Hugh Jackson, Freddie Stink is back on the Browns.
That's just the worst part too. Is the Browns were in the toilet for
years,
my whole life.
Yeah.
And when they hired John Dorsey, they brought in Jarvis Landry. They brought in
Sashi brought in,
Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hey, the Browns.
Yeah.
Drafted Baker.
Drafted Miles.
And that's like, okay. And it's like I said in the last podcast, my barometer to how everyone else not in Cleveland feels about the Browns is how Bill Simmons talks about them. Whenever Bill was like, hey, Browns.
Frisky.
Kind of frisky. I kind of like them.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Now they're back to, oh, fuck the Browns.
Yeah.
They're screwed.
Right. And the thing is, what's just so maddening, we talked about this in early podcasts, is they keep deluding themselves as if this was not a mistake that some 19-year-old would make with Deshaun Watson. First-year head coach would, some of these coaches, like, who was the guy, Eberflus or whatever on the Bears? Or Eberflus. I mean, that guy was terrible. He mismanaged the clock, and he was in an interview, and he said, oh, I thought everything was fine. He was the only person who thought that he did a good job. And there's something about we can't pierce the corporate veil of the corporate speak, but there's you wish you'd have a fly in the wall, or like we said in our last podcast, truth serum, where we'd inject Andrew, Paul, and Kevin Stefanski, we give them truth serum, and we turn to them and say, do you think what you did was just terrible and stupid? And see if they said, no, I thought it was fine. We did our studies and we did that. If that's the case, then why take a quarterback? Why take a quarterback and ruin them? Get somebody who's been around the track, who can almost coach the head coach.
The thing, though, and I know we argue about this a lot, you are of the opinion that Andrew Berry came into Jimmy's office and said, we need Deshaun.
Yeah.
That's what you
Yeah.
My opinion is it was the other way around, where Jimmy said, look, if he is at all interested, I want him. That's what I think. So I think the fact that Stefanski is still here and that Andrew Berry is still here tells me that Jimmy was the one who told them, go out, pay him whatever you can. I want him here.
Okay, I guess we got to edit out final thoughts here because we're going to expand this podcast. No, we're going to play a little episode of Clue. Okay? For those who haven't played Clue, you're trying to figure out who murdered who. Mr. Plum in the library with the dagger, right? Okay. I know it was not Jimmy Haslam who pushed. No?
There's no way you know. There's no way I know.
No,
you are not right here.
Pretend I'm Herculo. What was that guy? Hercule Poirot from.
Give me the facts.
Okay,
how do you know with 100% certainty?
I'm Jimmy Haslam's MO.
Yeah.
When he pushes something like he pushed Ray Farmer to take Johnny Manziel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when that blows up, and he fires Patton and Farmer, even though he's the one that made the call, right? Jimmy Haslam made the call and Manziel, and he fired him as a result. of his mistakes. He didn't own up to it, right? Okay, now we have Deshaun Watson. If Jimmy had pushed Deshaun Watson and the Watson thing blew up and his fingerprints were all over it, he would have fired Stefanski and Barry.
See, I don't think
That's how he works. But the fact is, he got so burned from the Manziel, Ray Farmer, shit show that was there. He was told, and he and Dee, they probably talked late at night over a real expensive glass of Bordeaux. They said, you know what, we got to stop interfering. We got to let the smart people do their job. Probably people in Pittsburgh organization, under, other NFL organizations, they're becoming a laughing stock after what happened with Johnny Manziel. People forget what a shit show that was. So they said, all right, listen, we got to hire smart people, let them do their jobs. This was an Andrew Barry move. He was building up to this. He's always been a little outside the box. Like that guy they signed for a second round. They got a second rounder and they signed the guy. They were almost like doing the NBA cap guy, that quarterback who was with the Broncos, who they signed like 4 years ago. And basically they signed him and they took a second rounder from Denver.
Okay, here's my counter.
And that's an Andrew Barry play. Deshaun Watson, this is how we're going to get it. Jimmy, this is MVP. This is the guy that's going to be the last piece in the puzzle. They never thought that Watson would have that kind of length of suspension. Okay, go ahead, Brook.
My counter. You're a business owner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're the Jimmy Haslam in this case.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the GM. I'm looking at some property in Bracknell. Okay, the property, i.e., Deshaun.
Mm-hmm.
I come to you, and you in no way would say, "Hey, yeah, you do whatever, you spend whatever you want,
Right.
to get that house," right?
No, I wouldn't never say that.
Exactly.
Right. But on the other hand, I am the business owner, and
you have to sign off on
exactly
any big purchase.
Exactly.
Anything.
Exactly. And I thought if I was the owner and these guys were the smart guys with Paul D. Podesta, Harvard, whatever, and they had a track record over the last couple of years of good drafts and managing the cap, and they came to me, and I watched them work the last 2 or 3 years, how analytical they are, how the draft is. They're picking up JOK in the second round. They're making trades up and down. I'm looking to D. I'm saying, finally, exactly. We got some smart people here.
And Amara, you can look this up, what his remaining salary is. Andrew Barry and his team is known for being these cap salary magicians.
They're the gurus.
You're telling me they think it's the smart analytical approach to say, you know what we should do? We should give a guy $250 million and fully guarantee it.
Yeah.
Because that's the smart cap thing to do. To me, that's got Jimmy's hands all over this thing.
Nope, because they brag about how they're the cap experts, and they keep moving the money down the road. They keep doing extensions. Look how they signed Nick Chubb. Look how they signed Denzel. Look how they signed Miles. They're siding them out. They're readjusting the cap, and they're figuring down the road there's going to be more cap money. The cap's going to keep going up. So amongst their Harold Ramis in Ghostbusters analytics, this is the smart play. This is the savvy move that nobody else is thinking about. We'll give the guy guaranteed money, and then we'll make Cincinnati pay. They're going to set the rules that everybody else is going to have to follow, because all these other quarterbacks are going to be re-signed. The Lamar Jacksons.
Yeah, but he's worth it.
But see, they think.
He's worth it.
Right, they think that Deshaun's worth it.
I think, honestly, you are the only person who I've heard out loud who thinks this.
Yeah.
Like, no one else out. I mean, hey, no one, i.e., like people on the radio and ESPN. I mean, everyone is saying, NFL Instant, like guys like Adam Schefter saying, oh no, This was Jimmy.
Okay, but see, the thing then, okay, well, let's say I'm wrong. Okay, and this is what I keep saying also. If Stefanski and Barry are not going to push back on Deshaun Watson, then they are tainted. They are as bad as Ray Farmer, who should have said something. This is where when these guys get to the top, the C-suite, the corner office, the CEOs, the Ray Farmers, the Mike Pettins, the Stefanskis, the Andrew Berrys, they don't know how to be a head coach or a general manager because this is something they never faced before. What do you do when you're pushed to do something unethical? What are you doing if you're getting pushed to do something that goes against your models?
I think, too, and this is why another thing that you and I don't agree on, that's why if they draft a quarterback at number 2, I'll be fine. I'll be fine because this is the first opportunity that these two guys, Andrew Berry and Stefanski, have where they can both look at a draft class with that pick. And if they both agree and say, we've looked at everyone, and Cam Ward, he's our guy. We love this guy. We love his leadership. We're taking him. Fine.
Okay.
Then take him. But they haven't had an opportunity, because with Baker, it wasn't their pick. And they let all these first-round draft picks go because they dumped. That's the other thing that people aren't talking about is it's not just the money, but it's all these draft picks that are just fucking wasted.
It's ruined the organization.
And you know what? I feel bad for guys like Miles, and I'm glad Miles stood up and said, I'm not going through another effing rebuild.
Yeah.
You figured this out.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, look, we're going to put our bets down. My feeling is they're going to go with Abdul Carter. They're going to go best player available across the board. They're going to try to clean house. They're going to get an offensive tackle. They're going to get best player at number 2. And I don't think any of these quarterbacks are in that class. And they're just going to jump and they're going to make Miles happy. And they're going to run the offense they should be running they got all the pieces the last couple of years with Batonio, with Teller. They get a young Bill Callahan type, which I guess they signed. They woke up and smelled the coffee on that one. So they got a real good young O-line coach who's been a real miracle worker, kind of almost like a Kenny Atkinson type coach at O-line. I think they're going to run heavy, and I think they're going to want to have a veteran quarterback. They're not if they draft now Jaden Daniels, I get, okay, that guy is Dan Marino time. But the rest of them, Bo Nix working with Sean Payton is very good. But the rest of them, they're still work in progress. I just think given all the pieces in place, the Denzel Ward, the Jerry Judys, the Wyatt Teller, Batonios last year, Njoku, all these players, they've got to make a run next year. And I think their thinking is we can't wait a couple years for this young quarterback to develop. Now, maybe he's a C.J. Stroud, maybe he's a Jaden Daniels. I get it, but I don't see any of them like that. But look at C.J. Stroud. He was the second pick. Who was ahead of C.J. Stroud? The guy from the Colts or the
Bryce Young?
Bryce Young? Mm-hmm. I mean, could you imagine drafting another Bryce Young and you miss out on Abdul Carter?
It's a crapshoot.
Yeah. You can't afford a crapshoot with the kind of capital they have. And I think they're going to bring Cousins and Flacco. And they're going to and maybe they'll get Jameis.
That's the thing. Like, no one knows.
Yeah.
I was watching, they did this funny thing of, reactions to, draft classes of, fans and pundits. And the best one was Mahomes. When the Chiefs traded up, drafted him.
Yeah.
People were like,
yeah.
Mel Kiper or some of these guys it's a reach.
Yeah.
You don't know.
And Lamar Jackson.
Nobody knows. No one knows.
Who was ahead of Lamar Jackson that got picked? Baker, right?
Yeah. I think
Josh was there, but also you had a couple other busts.
I think if the guy that they like is there at 2, i.e., whoever the Titans take, if that quarterback is there, they'll take him. If not, I hope they sign Joe Flacco and they come back in the first round, do what the Ravens did with Lamar. You know, they draft a kid from Ohio State.
Yeah.
Who just won the national championship.
And yeah, exactly.
You know,
they got 2 picks at 3.
That's the thing.
That guy will be around at 3.
And that's the thing. It's like I want that young guy. I'm sick of, I appreciate the Joe Flaccos and the Case Keenums, but like I just want my guy.
You know what?
Baker was our guy, and they screwed that up. And you know what? Good for Baker. He just had a baby.
Yeah.
He's killing it in Tampa.
Yeah.
He's a fucking leader.
Yeah. And he didn't do well with the Panthers.
Didn't do well with the Panthers.
And he kind of crashed in the LA Rams. He kind of had a good game or two with them. But here, I got another name for you who could be a Baker reclamation project and still young. Daniel Jones.
Oh, my God. I don't.
Daniel Jones, man. I see Brook and I are really clicking. Hey, folks, we're going to leave it on Daniel Jones, all right? We're going to end on that note since Brook's wearing the black Browns hat.
Oh, my God. No, it's just depressing hearing, like, the names out there. Like, because it's funny. I went for a run this morning. I listened to my NFL podcast. Here are some of the names of the guys who are available. And it just made me, like, want to vomit.
But
hold on. Daniel Jones.
Right.
Derek Carr. Jameis Winston. Sam Darnold. Well, we can't afford Sam Darnold, so that's pointless. I mean, those names alone.
But those were the names. Sam Darnold was on that list last year. Washed up. 2 years ago, Geno Smith. Washed up. What's to say Daniel Jones with a run-heavy attack?
Who was his running back?
Saquon with no line. They had no line.
I'm putting this out there now. If the Browns sign Daniel Jones, I'm not watching anything. I'll start rooting for the Packers. I don't know.
All right. Okay, folks, we are finally over here. All right. Thanks, Amari.
Oh, yeah.
Let's put it to bed.
Thank you for listening to the Cleveland Browns Anonymous podcast with Mike Riley. We have a lot more content on the way as we get this new podcast started. You can also check out some of our other podcasts like the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast and other new ones that will start soon. On any platform that you find yourself listening to us on, feel free to leave us a like or comment or follow us. It always helps.